and welcome back to the new E36 Chronicles. So, I got this thing home, I got it in the garage. Before I start driving it and stuff, we're gonna do a once-over on this car because they took it on a long trip, and it's an E36, and E36s are kind of junk, so I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. There's a lot of stuff that should probably really be checked on this car before I go about driving it, because E36s are made of glass. So we're gonna check the rear shock mounts, subframe, fluid levels, and more stuff around the engine bay, see what it needs. So immediately, just pulling it in the garage, it makes very weird squeaking noises when turning. I'm not sure if it's just tire rubbing on the fender. I don't think it is. So I gotta kind of investigate that. It leaks because the driveway has a puddle on it, and I think it's power steering based off kind of where I saw under the bumper. We're gonna jack it up, see what's leaking. So there's a few things that need to be addressed right off the rip on this thing. Otherwise, I'm really hoping that my rear shock mounts are kind of intact, my towers, so I don't, have to have a complete, overhaul of this car, fabrication-wise. I don't want to have to do that. So let's get this thing in the air, see what's good with it. First, I'll start it and I'll let you guys listen to the noise. I'm kind of fighting. Otherwise, you'll notice we got a new steering wheel in here already. The one that was in there I found out was a custom Euro wheel that was worth some money, so I sold it because I wasn't a fan of how that looked in this car. It didn't have an airbag, and to find a Euro airbag, not sure how easy that would have been. And yeah, so this is just temporary. You just let me borrow it. This is a stock M3 wheel, which is ugly and worn. I think I want to buy a hub and put like a Momo on here, but again, are we gonna keep this car that long? Who knows? I think we will. I think I'm gonna really enjoy this car. I immediately already like seeing it in the driveway, so still looking for a hood to get rid of that ugly stuff. But otherwise, let's get in here, check some fluids, and see if she's kind of good in the engine bay. So right off the bat, let's check the most important thing before I start driving it, and that is the oil level. 4 hours with a 230,000 mile M52. I don't know if she burns or, if it even has oil. Oh, the oil level's full, so that's a good thing. So oil is good, thank goodness. I guess I'll check the coolant. Can't see through the reservoir. Oh wow, right at the top. So that's great, because usually E36s evacuate their coolant, and E34s, really that's just an inline six thing. The coolant seems to disappear. But so I talked to Grant, who did a lot of the work on this thing when it was in Jace's possession. He told me that this thing has a new water pump thermostat, fan shroud, fan clutch, fan, reservoir, alternator, I think the battery. I'd have to go through and check what he said again. I can't remember. But basically the cooling system, and I believe the radiator is fairly new. So pretty much the cooling system's overhauled, which is perfect. That's the one thing that needs to be done on these. Hoses look pretty good. I don't know if original or not. I don't see a date on there. I think the hoses are replaced as well. Maybe the serpentine belt. So pretty much all the cooling system, front stuff here, which is really good. Coolant's good, oil's good, brake fluid is good. This needs to go. I don't want this hot air intake. I want a stock air box. I think Eustace has one for me, so I'll put a stock air box back on this thing. Otherwise, engine bay stuff. Power steering I need to check, because power steering is definitely giving me issues with this car, or it's leaking, one of the two. So let's check that. Oh, and by the end of this video, we will take this thing on the first drive. So unless I have completely destroyed rear shock towers or subframe and it's not drivable, I don't think that's the case. So we should be all right there. But let's get down here and check this power steering. See if this is. Oh well, that is full. It looks extremely murky. It actually looks overfilled, but regardless, I need a phone call. So anyway, before I got my call, what I was saying is, power steering's good, looks a little murky, so maybe it's not the power steering leaking. I don't know, we're gonna see in a little bit. Anyway, I gotta back it up, drive it up on wood to get the jack under there. In the meantime, I'll turn it and let you guys hear what I'm hearing and, you know, see if we can figure that out. So I may have just backed into my mom's car. It sounded like it, but there's no signs of any of that. So I guess we didn't. Maybe it was a fluke. I don't know. That was a bit stupid. We got up on the wood. Let's jack this thing up and see what it looks like underneath. See if we got any leaks. And then we're gonna head to the trunk for the shocks. Before I lift up the front while it's level, I'm gonna check out the rear and check these shock towers really quick because I'm curious. So I already kind of start digging here for this side. But now I gotta get through this like sound deadening. So we'll rip this up. Ooh. I'm not sure if my eyes are deceiving me or not, but we may have good news. Let me pull this side really quick to make sure I'm right. Okay, so I have great news. This car was owned by someone who took good care of it because both the rear shock towers actually have reinforcement plates already installed. That's one thing I was looking into getting for this car because, as I explained, E36 rear shock towers made of paper. But these already have the reinforcement plates, and they're not welded, but they're like, they look like they're, alright, here, I'll just show you. See in there, you can see that's the plate, and it's got, what looks like glue underneath it. So I don't know if that's like epoxy or what they use, but that is fantastic. Let us venture underneath this E36. Oh, so another plus is it has jack points, so it's not rusty as expected from a car from Georgia. But anyway, so immediately noticing my suspicions of the leak were correct. It is actually this line right here that goes into the bottom of the reservoir and then does all these funny loopy-loopies and goes into the rack. That is the one that's leaking. Obviously the other line is leaking as well, but I don't think that's the one that's dripping. This one's dripping, which is a pain. That's this whole bendy line here. So that needs to be replaced. I went on ECS and I see that you can get an entire power steering overhaul kit for like 260 bucks, which is actually far less than I was expecting to spend, especially with this whole metal hose or tube here. I thought that was gonna be really expensive. So I think what I'm gonna do is just buy the whole power steering overhaul kit, do all the hoses, new fluid, get that you know, dialed in there so I don't have to worry about it, because this isn't just a hose clamp here. This is like the weird like soft to hardline fitting thingy that is notorious for leaking. So if that's leaking, there's not much I could do there unless it's dripping down from the thing. I mean, it's all a mess. I think I'm just gonna do the lines rather than try to hope that I can rig this together. Anyway, oil pan, seepy, but not leaking. Rear main appears to be leaking. There's some decent oil here that it does not look like it's coming from the pan. So rear main needs to be done, but will I ever pull off this transmission? Probably not. So that'll have to wait. It is a ZF. I checked the stamping, so that's really cool. Otherwise, we got a torn tie rod boot, which is fun. So that should technically be done. I don't think that's my rubbing noise, but we'll see. I've never done outer tie rods before on an E36. Not really looking forward to that. So we'll see. We're gonna have to price that out. It has JOM or JOM coilovers, which are actually not bad, I don't think. I think they're like eBay and a half for the most part. I have to look them up, I don't even remember. I think if I keep this car in the future, I'm gonna wanna do new coils because I'm gonna wanna go lower in the rear at least. So, and they don't ride great. I'm pretty sure they are like eBay-ish, but I'm not for sure 100%. Otherwise, the lower control arm lollipops appear to could probably use some love. Might do that. Trans mounts are clean. Motor mounts are pretty solid with just a little bit of cracking on them. The exhaust side. And then you guys will hear when we take this thing for a ride, but the exhaust setup on this car sounds awful. And I have now seen that basically what we have here is stock downpipes, and then right where the cats would be is basically welded on a you know, an S that goes into a 2-to-1, which then brings it to, I believe, a 3-inch. And there's one little resonator right there, and then there's the Flowmaster muffler. So you'll hear it sounds really raspy. I hate it. I don't think that's because of the cats. I think that's just because that single cherry bomb style resonator and a Flowmaster, those are just not the exhaust components you use on like a BMW. And then the 3-inch, you know, where you have to go under the axles where it's really low, is flat, so that's not even a 3-inch, and the bend is really junky. So that rear half is garbage. This is not horrible. So I think I'll probably leave this and then redo the back half, because, well, I wish I kind of had cats on this. To buy an exhaust with cats is going to be an arm and a leg, and it is what it is. So the O2 sensors were hanging out. I tucked them up. So the car has a check engine light because of O2s, and it's the rear two throwing codes, which obviously they're not plugged in. So I don't think this thing has a tune with coded out rear O2s, so I'll have to do that. The fronts are intact there. If they need to be replaced, I'll see when I run more codes after I, you know, take care of that. When this will all happen, we don't know, but that kind of sucks. So that rear half of the exhaust needs to be, certainly needs to be addressed. The drive shaft heat shield is hanging. That needs to be addressed. Maybe just like self-tapped in or something. Otherwise, I'll probably do a fuel pump underneath this cover. Or not a fuel pump, a fuel filter. But yeah, otherwise down here is not too bad. Probably a trans flush it could use. Oil change. And then, like I said, these power steering hoses, these are the first thing on the list because these are seeping pretty bad. And I guess a tie rod, that means I'll be doing 2. So I'll price those out and see when I want to spend that money. And the ball joints have seen better days. They're a little cracked up, so it won't hurt to do these, but then I have to get in alignment. Pretty much that's what I can think of to check. Rear subframe, I'll jack that up and check it real quick, and I'll come back and let you guys know. But yeah, so she needs, you know, some fluids gone through, power steering stuff touched, and, you know, an alignment, and some body panels, and the exhaust. And, you know, we'll get to those things, but like I said in the last video, this car is not gonna get like completely done up right now until that 6 Series sells. I can't swing that. I don't need it. You know, I don't need that. So we will probably go on with this car. I do like it. I want to keep it. So I'll kind of piece things together, see what I can find. Eventually get this bumper painted. And yeah, so mods will come. Wheels, coilovers, you know, stuff like that. I'll order the stuff it needs and we'll get all that maintenance done, you know, but like mods wise, that stuff will kind of come later down the road. So anyway, it's dark out now, but tomorrow I will come back to you guys and we'll take this thing for the first drive and initial impressions on the mighty 328 IS. So I got no gas, but we're gonna fill this thing up and then we'll take it for a little bit of a spin. See how she drives, see what it needs, not visually, but you know, based off the road. All right, so I'm a brilliant man, and after I stopped filming last night, I thought about it, and I noticed with the car running in the air that the dripping power steering fluid wasn't actually coming from that like line. It was coming from where it appeared to be the feed line into that hard line comes from the reservoir, and that's where it seemed to be dripping. I think it was just dripping down. So brilliant me put a screwdriver on it, and it had some room to be tightened. So it was a bit loose. So I let it sit overnight with cardboard underneath, and there is no new drips. So I may have saved myself 280 bucks because I don't think I need the power steering kit anymore. We'll see. That's not 100%. I didn't drive it, so I'm gonna drive it right now, and then I'll let it sit all day, and then I'll see if there's any new drips. So we may have saved ourselves some time and money right there based off loose hose clamps. Somehow power steering hose clamps always come loose. A lot of the BMWs I get, they're all loose and leaking, and that's just a majority of the actual leaks, turns out to be. But aside from that, I also, big brain moment, realized that a torn tie rod boot does not mean you need a whole new tie rod. You can buy the boots, they're like $7. So I think what I'm gonna do is just buy the boot, because the ball joints are iffy, but they're not like that bad. There's not much play, they're just cracking. So they're not completely destroyed, the grease isn't everywhere. So instead of spending whatever $100+ to do tie rods, I'm gonna leave those, just do a new boot. And now I'm kind of thinking, you know, the steering noise that I kind of told you guys about, you only hear it at low speeds when the wheels turn more. I can't figure out for the life of me what that is. I'm gonna need someone else to kind of be in the car and move it, and I'm gonna have to be underneath and look. But it just kind of came to my mind that I'm hoping that's not a bunch of debris that came in through that ripped boot and is now like inside the rack, and like the rack is destroyed. That would be really crappy. I kind of don't think that would be the case, because it does sound like even to both sides. It sounds like it's the tire rubbing on fender liner, but I checked and the tires aren't rubbing on fender liner. So, well, they are, but like not when I'm stationary turning. So I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna have to further check that out. If I needed a rack, that really sucks. But I think E36 racks are like pretty available, pretty like easy to find, and I don't think they're too expensive. I think I could buy like a not super desirable rack ratio for like $200-300 probably. Do I want to? No. Also, the glove box does not stay closed. I have it taped and it just fell again. So those are my first thoughts here. So steering, there's something going on here. I'm not really sure. Aside from that, it drives good. The clutch is new, so obviously the clutch feels great. It shifts really nicely. The suspension is not horrible. It feels about what cheap coilovers would feel like. But it does pull. It pulls right. So I don't know if it needs an alignment. This steering wheel, I put it on there kind of just half-assed. I don't think it's necessarily straight, but regardless of the way the wheel looks, it does pull a little bit. And there you can hear that awful exhaust. Oh man. Let's I'm gonna warm up and then I'm gonna get you guys windows down so you can hear that exhaust. This beautiful crushed 3-inch with Chevy mufflers on it, because that's literally what Flowmaster, I mean, I don't know, the people that use Flowmasters are like donks and like lowriders. I've never seen that used on a BMW, so it just does not sound well. I think what I'm gonna do with this car is a vibrant ultra quiet res and then a vibrant muffler, just like my E30 had. As you guys remember, I absolutely loved how the E30 sounded. I would like to replicate that with an M52, especially because it's catless, so it should probably honestly sound the same. But it won't be a full 3-inch. It's, you know, stock here, and then it opens up to a 3-inch, or maybe a 2.5. I don't really know, but I just gotta figure out who I want to fabricate that. Zach's busy. I don't think I'm gonna bother him with that. This car's not worth Zach quality to me, so it might just hit a Velasquez or something. I'm not sure, but we'll see. You can hear some pops there. You know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it doesn't pull. I mean, yeah, a little bit. So pulls a little bit, nothing major. When I do suspension, wheels, and all that, I'll probably just go get an alignment, which is a really weird term to me, because none of my cars have gotten alignments, except for my E46 is aligned. My E36 needs one, and then E34s you don't really align. You only do the fronts, and I usually just kind of eyeball that and never have issues with tire wear or anything. So the thought of getting an alignment is pretty wild to me. But let's windows down. I'm gonna give you guys a second here, ripping this thing. We're gonna see how she feels. All right, ready? Oh god. You probably just hear wind noise actually. Let me do that again. The window's half down. High-pitched rasp, and it sounds so cheap. Oh my goodness, it sounds awful. So it's tolerable below like 3K, maybe 4. As soon as like the Vanos starts to kind of hit, it's just like rasp. Right at 3K, it just goes to straight rasp. But I noticed braking there. It needs rotors. The front rotors are shaking. That's what he told me buying it too. But I can now confirm, yeah, the front brakes are kind of garbage. So I think he said the pads are good. Just needs rotors slotted, drilled. So I'll probably do rotors on this thing. Not probably, I will. I'll check the rears and see if the rear is needed as well. But we're here at the gas station. I'm gonna fill this thing up and then we'll continue. So I put it in half a tank because I'm not filling up this whole thing. Tires, brand new. He told me about that when I bought it. That's awesome, or when I traded it. And I looked around. Brakes, I think I'm gonna do brakes all around. The pads, front and rear, are pretty minimal. Front rotors shake, rear rotors are rusty. So I will believe I will be doing a full brake job on this. So I'll do an E36 brake job video here in the future. Aside from that, this car had a check engine light when I got it. Cleared it with my scanner, and I read the codes, and it was all O2 codes, I think I mentioned. I cleared it, and they have yet to come back, and I've driven it, you know, long enough to where I feel like a check engine light for an O2 sensor would come back. I guess we'll see. The rears, like I said, are disconnected. I do think this thing has a tune, and I think they're probably coded out if it's tuned. If it's not, they'll come back, and then I will get a new tune. But I think it is tuned because I let Eustace drive it and he took it to the red line, and the limiter is how you know, I believe. So let's see if we can get limiter here. Okay, so it is, the red line is 7, not 65 or 66. So it is tuned then, and maybe the O2s are coded out, and maybe they just never cleared the codes when they put the ECU in, which would be weird. But they have yet to come back. I'm not gonna complain because that's cool. No check engine light, and this thing runs good. It feels strong. It feels healthy. It feels like a nice little go-kart. E36s, I guess, are pretty peppy. 328s. The one thing is E36 328 to an M3 apparently is not much of a difference. Everyone says that. It's pretty. An S52 is pretty much an M52 with, like, I think, more aggressive cam, and I think that's it. Cams. I think that's pretty much it. So allegedly, a tune, an intake, and what's the third thing? A tune, an intake. I don't think it's an exhaust. I think I can't remember what he said. Either way, there's 3 things that you do, and basically a 328 will outrun an M3. So I have an E36 M3. When I pull it out next year, maybe I'll have a tune and intake, and maybe we could do some comparisons. But otherwise, it's not a bad car. I think this is a really nice. It's had a lot of love done to it. It's also had some horrible things done to it, like this exhaust. So yeah, you know, as we go, we'll see what we do. Like I said, a lot of, you know, exterior stuff needs to be done. Some interior stuff needs to be done. I gotta fix the glove box. I gotta e-brake boots a little shoddy. This door card's a little shoddy. I need a wheel for it. I need a detail. I need to clean up the inside. I have yet to do that. But otherwise, yeah, windows work. Heat's great. Not great, but it's good. So yeah, you know, we got some stuff to do, but otherwise, I'm excited to go further with this car. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and should be able to get this thing pretty nice, redo the tints, and you know, we'll see how much I want to put into it, how much work, how much time, how much money. If I sell my E24, like I said, we'll do a lot more. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys are excited for this E36 series, because I know I am. So one thing that I've always wanted to do on my channel, because E36s are fun to tinker with. So I will see you guys in the next one.